Hi Darkroom booth users, Eugene here with Darkroom Software. Today we're going to learn how to convert this PSD template into a PNG. Then we're going to build a template with editable text in Darkroom. Along the way, we're going to talk about a couple tips and tricks that will make our designs just perfect and a little bit easier to make. So, let's get started. We're going to double click on the PSD. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to File, Save As, and save it as a JPEG. What this will do is give us a guide on where to place our text and also have some helpful tips like the font and links to the font that were used. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to hide a couple of these layers. We're also going to open the footer up. Make sure we hide the text as well. Now we're going to go back to File and Save As. And this time we're going to save it as a PNG. The reason we use the PNG file format is because it allows for transparency. Anytime that you see this checkerboard pattern, it means that there's transparency, that you're able to see through this object to an object behind it, which would be your images. If you're using a graphic as a background behind your images, then it's fine to save it as a JPEG. But for this case, we want to see through this graphic, so we're going to save it as a PNG. We can go ahead and minimize Photoshop, and we now have our JPEG and our PNG. We're going to switch over to Darkroom now. So here we are back in Darkroom booth. We're going to click on Choose and then New and give the template a description. And you can use whatever naming convention you like. And you'll want to make sure that your page settings are correct. We're going to leave it horizontal so I can show you how to get back to it if you need to. If you click right here, you have Edit Template, and it'll bring that menu back up. Make your update and click OK. Now we're going to add the artwork that we created just a little bit ago. Click on Add Artwork from right here, and then Browse. And then browse to the PNG, click Open, and then OK. Next we need to add the photos. At the bottom I'm going to click Add Photo and click OK, leaving everything at default. Using my scroll wheel to zoom in and out and grabbing the anchors to resize and reposition the image node. So here's the next trick. I'm going to use Control-C and Control-V for copy and paste for photo 1. If you forget those keyboard shortcuts, you can always right click on it and it'll show you Control-C and then Control-V for paste. So let's try that. Copy, paste, I can see a duplicate, and then paste again. Now I have 3. So I'm going to deselect and then reselect photo 1. I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard to position it. Touch just right. I can also use my mouse to drag it into place as well. Okay. So the next tip we have is we have our graphic behind the photos, and we actually want that graphic on top of the photo so we can see through it to the photo area. So I'm going to click and drag it into the correct order. If I drag it back 1, you can see that what will be photo number 3 is in front of the graphic. Move it back into place. Let's update these graphics, or these photos. Correct number. Just double click on the photo node and change it from photo 1 to photo 2. So next thing we need to do is add the text. This is where that JPEG guide comes in really handy. You click Add Artwork, click Browse, and select the JPEG. So one of the questions I get asked all the time is, how do I get more fonts into Darkroom? The fonts that are in Darkroom are the fonts that are installed on your PC in Windows. So if you want more fonts in Darkroom, you find the fonts and install them into Windows, and they'll be available to Darkroom. So this designer has included the font that they used for this design and also a link to the font to make it easier so you can match their design. So we're going to click on Add Text, and you want to make sure that you have that font selected. That matches up pretty well. You can hold down your Shift key to make adjustments. I'm adjusting with my scroll wheel again in smaller increments, so you can see it's smaller. And you can also use Control to make larger adjustments in larger increments, so you can see how it's moving much faster. So we'll hold down Shift until we get it perfect. There we go. That looks pretty close to perfect. I'm using my arrow keys on my keyboard to nudge into place as well. So I'm going to copy and paste, and then double click and make that adjustment. And then copy and paste. And then 10 full. And I can see that that font is a slightly different color, or it's a pretty dramatically a different color. And we'll scroll wheel down until that looks about right, and that looks pretty good. And copy and paste. And then we'll change the font to blackjack. Just a little bit. Adjust that bounding box. So there we go. We're pretty close to original design, but now it's editable. Let's go ahead and select this graphic, the JPEG that we used as a guide. We'll click the delete key, hit yes, and we have a template that's ready to go. We're going to click save as, and that description will now become the file name. And save. We're all done. Thank you for watching. So here's a bonus tip. Let's say you have text or an object in your template that you would like to match color to. I'm going to switch back over to Photoshop and select my primary color and use the eyedropper to select the color. I'm going to write down the RGB values right here: 204, 173, and 54. I'll switch back over to Darkroom. Double click on the text object, select the text color, and type those numbers in: 204, tab 173, tab 54. Now that text does match this object in the template. Thanks. See you next time.